Hello, friend. Welcome to Judson Church's midweek online service. I am Travis Norval, the pastor of here at this wonderful congregation church, and glad that you are spending a little bit of your time with us. For the midweek service, we take elements from Sunday morning, incorporate them with some new stuff, and then we reproduce it as this midweek service. So if you weren't able to be with us personally on Sunday, here's a little bit of it. If you've been continually worshiping with us online, it's a nice flavor of what happened, plus some other things, and we're just glad that you're being a part of it with us. It was Rally Day on Sunday, lowercase r, but it was a good time. We had Karen Thomas, our kind of resident violinist who visits with us from time to offer her beautiful music, was here. We had a slideshow that showed kind of Judson's resilience over the past 18 months. Carolyn, man, she is on this kind of a spiritual odyssey and roll with these centering prayers. You're going to have that. It's a great time. Monica Lewis, who is the moderator for Judson this year, gave her personal reflection, so it's great to have her present and just have personal reflections back. It's been a long time. That's kind of maybe some of you grew up with hearing personal testimonies. It's kind of our version of a personal reflection. And then a sermon. I'm trying to go with Jesus of Nazareth, our ancestor. You know, I've been curious what you think of it. One of the weird parts of doing things online and is just having to watch yourself and then realizing, sometimes you wish you could do it over again. But then you also realize, man, there are times when you can say, you can preach the worst sermon, and yet God still uses it for some kind of grace in someone's life. So sometimes you just got to trust that. It's kind of like the Meatloaf song, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So if the sermon ain't good, well, we got some wonderful music, wonderful prayers, wonderful personal reflection. Other times, we're off key on something else and the sermon's not too bad. So, you just kind of roll with those things. That's part of worship 52 Sundays a year. We're glad you're with us. Thanks for spending some time. We'd love to hear back from you. How you doing? How you coping? What's your hopes? What's your fears? What do you experience in gratitude? Put them in the comments. Send me an email. Text me. Get in touch with us. Just let us know how you're doing. If you are in town this coming Sunday, we are doing a service. We'll be doing a dedication of the solar panels. That'll be taking place at 11 a.m. here at Judson Church. We'll have some clips of that so you'll be able to experience it. If you're not able to be here, it's perfectly fine. And this Sunday, the service will focus on our ancestor, Hildegard of Bingen. So we've got a service that'll be incorporating some of Hildegard's teaching and music and other aspects. There will be some downloadable links because we're going to have some interactive parts for you. So we'll send those out in the email ahead of time and make sure that you have those. If you're not on our email, just go to judsonchurch.org. You'll see the connect button. Click on that, and it'll give you the way to sign up for our email. Love for you to be a part of that too. Thank you for, also I just want to put one more plug in. I just want to say thanks for all those who are continuously giving. Your gifts are making a difference. Many of you have signed up for online giving, and we are thankful for that. And if you're looking maybe for some other opportunities to give, we have plenty of things I could recommend for you. If you'd like to, just let me know. Again, friend, know that you're welcome. And this is our hope, big hope, that once you discover the God of love, you fire all the rest of the gods. So we are hoping that today, maybe if you haven't, for the first time, experience and meet this God of love and know that you are loved and welcomed and embraced. Let us worship.
Good morning. After each segment, please say, "Loving Spirit, open our hearts," for our call to worship this morning. Loving Spirit, embrace us as we worship together. May we have ears to hear the voice of love coming to us in unexpected ways. May we be gentle with ourselves and each other when we feel like we are riding a wave that could drown us. May we allow our softness and vulnerability to rise, and may we pay attention to what truth has to tell us. Loving Spirit, open our hearts. May we share our despair and listen to the despair of others. May we notice the rhythms of grace found in all living things and receive it as a gift. Loving Spirit, open our hearts. May we be ones who hark like the wild geese. Ooh, I like that. Hark like the wild geese, shouting to each other with love and care that each of us has needs and is needed. We are in this together, and we all belong here. Loving Spirit, open our hearts.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so good to see some more returning people here today. So why don't we take some time to look around the church, look around the space. If you haven't been here for a while, sort of take in any memories that pop up for you. If you have been coming this summer, look and see who's joined us. Let's just take in this space. And now, I'm going to invite you to allow any memories that you have from this space to come into your mind. Memories throughout the years of Sunday services, Christmases and Easters, Christmas pageants, youth lock-ins, coffee and donuts, adult forums. Let's just take a moment now in silence to allow these memories to come to you. And as you take in these memories, what is a word that comes to mind that describes the quality or essence of your time in Judson? And now, let's take a time to go back. So we've gone through our memories and our times here in this space, our times of joy, our times of grieving, our times of connection, our times of hope that we've brought to this space. And let's let our minds go back to before our time here and to the ancestors of Judson, people who were coming in this space over 100 years ago as we began. And just imagine their energy, their essence still here in this space. What quality comes to mind as you imagine the essence of those who've gone before you? We know that they too had hardships and illness outbreaks and losses and joys. Let me just put that question out to them, to the universe? What can we learn? What message do the ancestors have for us in this space? And we also know that the ancestors can learn from us. I assume, for example, that those that came here, founded the church over 100 years ago, that probably were not welcome or opening to LGBTQ people, for example. We know that we can assume that there were people that had to hide their identities, that had to hide themselves in some way from each other in this space. And so maybe take a moment now to let the ancestors learn from us and imagine them watching us and how we share our love and grow in love and faith in this space. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and just take in a deep breath, breathing into the energy of this space here. Breathing out your energy into the space here and seeing where you fit in to this larger story that is Judson.
I invite you to light a candle, or if you don't have a candle nearby, I invite you to turn a lamp on, or maybe you're just really comfortable in a chair and you're like, I don't want to go find a candle and light it, and I don't want to go turn a light on. Well, maybe just take your shoes off. Just some way to mark the moment holy. Many of the prayer requests you've been emailing me, and the ones we've shared here on Sunday morning, which you'll find in the bowl, people have been praying for Afghanistan, praying for the turmoil that we are witnessing before our eyes, praying for women in Afghanistan, praying for the Christian communities that are there in Afghanistan, praying for Texas, and praying for Texas women, and their right for health care and their access to be in control of their own bodies. We pray for that situation. We pray for the rise of this spike in cases with the Delta variant and the toll that's taking on our communities. Wherever you are, I hope that you are vaccinated. I hope that you're staying safe. But I also hope that you're not filled with fear at the same time. We're praying for schools start back, and anxiety is coming with that. We're praying for one another. We're praying for this church, and we're praying for this world that we live and call home. We have a version of the Lord's Prayer that Parker Palmer adapted. We've been praying lately. You'll find I'll put the words to it online on the YouTube comments. We've also got the Lord's Prayer in Spanish that Helen Body and Mike Olson have prepared for us. So we ask you to pray along with us. Right now, we're just going to have some moments of silence, and then we'll pray the Lord's Prayer together.
Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Nuestro Creador, que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre.
Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Venga tu reino, hágase tu voluntad, así en la tierra como en el cielo.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día, y perdona nuestras deudas como nosotros perdonamos a nuestros deudores.
Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
No nos dejes caer en tentación, mas líbranos del mal.
For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever.
Porque tuyo es el reino, el poder y la gloria por siempre.
Amen.
Amén.
Hello, Judson friends. Both friends here in the sanctuary and our friends that are watching from home. I'm Monica Lewis, and I am our Judson Church moderator for the 2021-2022 church year. And I'm thrilled and pleased to be in that role. I would like to say thank you to the people from last year who led us in our church. Laura O'Halloran, please stand up. Laura did a wonderful job leading our church last year. And now I would like anyone who served on council or on a task force to stand up. I know there are a lot of you out there. Thank you. Come closer?
Yes.
Okay. So, is that better? Okay. So things are changing here at Judson. I can feel it. I feel excited. I feel like this is just our time. It's totally our time. And it started out with Travis, Pastor Travis, getting excited about this book. This is called Fishing Tips. And it's not about fishing, it's not even about being fishers of men, which I've been singing that song in my head for days now. But what it is about how curiosity transformed a community of faith. And now brace yourselves, folks, I'm going to quote a Bible story. Okay, so the Bible story is these guys are out fishing in their boat and they're not catching anything. Nothing's coming up. They're bored. Nothing's coming up. So Jesus is on the shore, and I think he's on the shore. Anyway, he hollers out, hey, try fishing from the other side of the boat. Okay, so they go, oh, and they fished from the other side of the boat, and of course they caught all kinds of fish. So the story helps us to understand that there is opportunity for us. There is plenty, but we need to not keep fishing up that same side of the boat. We need to turn around and look around and try to figure out, wow, what is out there for us? This book was about a church very similar to Judson. Similar in size, similar in budget, similar in old peopleness. But what happened was they started to say yes. every time an idea came up, they didn't list the things, well, we can't do that because that, 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 that. They said, yes, we are going to do that. We're going to make that happen. And I actually read, you can see all my little markers here, I actually read this book very carefully. It sat for a long time before I picked it up and opened it, but once I started reading about the story of this congregation, I thought, this is us. We're going to do this. We are so going to do this. And we've already started doing it. Guess what? We had, and this is one of the best things that we've done, Laura appointed a task force. Let's see, what's the official name? The Marketing Communications Strategy Team, led by Brad Jorn, and joined with him with Travis, Leslie Rapp, Doug Harvey, and Michelle Molstead. Now they came up with this really great idea and plan. It's a list of recommendations of what we can do to say yes. They came up with 7 things, and we've already done some of them. One of them sitting right there. Brian's come. He's our communications expert, and we're so happy to see him. And things popping up all the time, like the preschool's first day. Well, Brad and Leslie were out there feeding them chocolate-covered donuts, and they were so happy to have us there, and oh gee, you know, who would have thunk, here we are, the church where you live, and you're part of us, but it's this thinking in new ways, it's this new idea, saying yes, and we've said yes in other ways too. One of them is to make that task force into a committee, a permanent standing committee for Judson, and that committee is called the Outreach and Engagement Committee, and they are continuing that work and fanning out into other things and ideas, and if you have any ideas, call Brad or me or anybody on council, and we'll see that it gets a good hearing, if nothing else. But the other thing that we did, and this came out of the what did we call ourselves now? The task force on committee structure, and that was me, Wayne Urbaniak, Christine Revak, and Bob Clegg. And that group did a little bit of tweaking on our committee structure, but we also, and this is Christine Revak's brainchild, it also outlines how we can change how we do things here from just the committees that you sign up and you're on a committee for a year, change it from that to task-oriented involvement. So if something little appeals to you or this appeals to you, that you don't have to join the committee for the whole year. You do something that you want to do that excites you and that's fun for you. Maybe you want to write letters for Louise to the congregational people who need congregational care. Maybe you want to start and finish an operations manual. Wayne, maybe you want to do anything. Think them up. Think up the ideas for yourselves. That's the beauty of the whole thing. So I am truly excited that I get to be the moderator during this super energetic and fantastic time. And I thank those who sort of started us down that path and those who are going to keep going. So, hey, you know what, everybody? Say yes.
Thank you, Karen and Jim. Some of you may have recognized that as a beautiful rendition of the old hymn, I Need Thee Every Hour. Our reading today is from Mark 8, 27 to 38. Jesus went with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others, Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets." Jesus asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered Jesus, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. Jesus said all this quite openly, and Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, Jesus rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." Jesus called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up the cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." I will turn it over to Travis to explain all this to us.
One note about the donut passing out. One of those things where we thought this could go down as maybe one of the greatest ideas of all time, or one of the worst ideas of all time, because we're sitting out there and there's 60 kids, and it's their first day of preschool, and we're giving them chocolate donuts, right? So we're setting them up for a 10 a.m. crash, tears all over the place. However, it worked out pretty geniusly, I think, despite our foibles on that, because there was a backup for the teachers to check everybody in on the first day, and they couldn't get all the kids rushed through like they normally would, and so there was all these nervous kids standing in line, and then you could feel the anxiety, am I really going to say goodbye to mom and dad or their guardian or their grandma? And they were feeling that way, and all of a sudden they had a chocolate donut in their hand, and everything just melted away, right? I haven't. One of the things I miss terribly, is just serving communion with people. People coming forward and handing it to them. It's just something we haven't been able to do and won't be able to do for a while. But this guardian, I would say she was a grandmother. I could be wrong. Nobody quote me on this on part, but she came to Brad and I. She cried, as she's leaving, and she came and it was like she was coming forward for Eucharist, and the priest was going to give her the wafer. She comes forward with her hands like this. "Can I have a donut?" And I gave her a chocolate donut. It was, I almost said, "Body of Christ broken for you," but I didn't. But those are the things we're dealing with. Yeah. Nevertheless. So this sermon is called "Be Careful What You Confess." One of the most striking details of our experience over the past, 16, 17, 18 months, depending on how you count it, of the pandemic is just how much change has taken place, or is still taking place. Just look around this morning. It looks like every Judson kid grew about 14 inches. It seems like for the non-kids, there's a lot of hair that's not there that was there. Or there's a lot of hair that changed color. Or at least in the pandemic, it was revealed it was a different hue or tint than it was before. Some people are literally not very sure on their feet, and you see a lot of shakiness, some wobbling. Some people, it seems, in the same way, just as they're shaky on their feet, they're also shaky with their faith. So many people I've talked with have found that major parts of their faith are lacking and insufficient for the moment at hand. Or that there's been so much stuff just piled up in their mind and in their souls that they're just throwing away piles of it. And into this space, we offer this sermon and worship series focused on listening to our ancestors. Last week we heard from the strong, witty, and powerful voice of the Syrophoenician woman. And today I ask us to listen to the voice of the peasant storyteller, wonder worker, reformer from Galilee, Jesus of Nazareth. Our lesson today places us in a time of ancient myths and culture-forming stories. Look at the titles that were used in that story. Satan, literally the tempter. The Messiah, literally the anointed one. The ancient title, the Son of Man, really a better translation is the earthly child, or the son or the child of humanity. And then those ancestors that were pulled up as well, John the Baptizer, Elijah, or one of the prophets. So let us give ourselves a moment and permission to enter into a mythic land. And this would be the time, if we had a soundboard, someone would push it, and it would be like this portal music that we would have playing. So imagine it in your head. So if you recall last week, the Syrophoenician woman changed Jesus' trajectory of life. And if you weren't here, that's fine. But just go back and read that story in Mark 7, and you'll find the story of this woman who challenges Jesus, challenges his prejudices also, and changes his direction, both literally and metaphorically. Now, Jesus went from the Syrophoenician woman up to the lands of Tyre and Sidon via the Decapolis. And that's like going, like I said, from Minneapolis to Hastings via Duluth. It doesn't make much sense. But that was the direction that Jesus went in that story. All of those regions were outside of Jesus' known realm. They were outside of Galilee. And this morning, because of the Syrophoenician woman, Jesus is again in what we could call dangerous territory. He's in Caesarea Philippi. That's not the little towns of Nazareth or Capernaum. This is, obviously a Roman town. He's outside of Galilee. He's in Syria. He's near the mountains. He's not in a safe place. Maybe he's trying to work undercover. Maybe he's just trying to clear his head, get away from everything. Or maybe he's trying to concretize in his soul what it means to be Jesus. So casually he asks the disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" Safe question to ask, safe question to answer. They give mythic answers. You're John the Baptizer. You're Elijah the prophet. You're one of the other prophets. Imagine Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. But then Jesus made it complicated. But who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter said, "You are the Messiah, the anointed one." Now think of all the crucial moments in your life when heaven and earth met, when righteousness and peace kissed. Can you remember a time, or maybe anticipate a time, when you will tell someone that you love them and mean it? I know you probably can't go back in your mind and remember that time, but there was a tender moment when you were born, when the room was filled with blood and afterbirth, and yet your mother picked you up and held you in her arms. Or imagine the moment you stood up or stepped up or spoke up for a moment of justice, even though you were shaking on the inside and maybe on the outside too. Or think about any of those moments that just for a flicker of time, you knew that without a doubt this is what you were put on this earth to do. Peter's moment is one of those moments. You are the Messiah, the anointed one. That is who you are to me. When you're that vulnerable, all you really want to do is someone to hug you. Just affirm your vulnerability. I don't know if Jesus wasn't reading the room very correctly or what happened, but Jesus gives him an invitation to go deeper. Did you notice that the storyteller doesn't say Jesus is the Messiah? Nor does Jesus refer to himself as the Messiah. The storyteller and Jesus used an alternative title, the earthly one, the child of humanity. Peter told Jesus, you're the Messiah, the anointed one. But then Jesus goes on to explain this, what kind of earthy one he is. The earthly one, the child of humanity, must suffer, be rejected, be killed, and rise after 3 days. Think of it, you just poured your heart out to someone. You made yourself completely vulnerable. And then you hear, you've got it all wrong. I must suffer, I must be rejected, and I must be killed. And this was too much for Peter. It'd be too much for any of us. This is neither what Peter wanted nor what he hoped that he wanted or sought. And so he did an unthinkable thing. He rebuked Jesus. Last week, the Syrophoenician woman bested Jesus, and now his top disciple is rebuking him. Jesus gives one of the most classic lines in English language. Get behind me, Satan. You are not thinking of the things of God, but of earthly things. But put yourself in Peter's mind. Messiahs don't suffer. Messiahs aren't rejected. Messiahs don't get killed. Peter's hope is all of our hopes. No one wants pain. No one wants suffering. No one wants loss. No one wants rejection. No one wants death. No one welcomes those aspects of life, even though we all know that they are present. But Jesus invites us and Peter into a deeper reality, one where pain and suffering and loss are real and present. Again, to a story from Kevin Kling. Anyone that's ever had a heart broken knows this. The heart is an instrument. Once broken, never repairs the same. Yet even though it can't be cured, it can be healed. And once you love again. But that heart isn't the same heart that was broken the first time. You can try to heal it, and that's an important thing to know. We all experience loss, and it's part of being human. It's part of our experience. And it's not something you necessarily cherish. I mean, to me, I associate it with being an artist. Nobody's an artist on purpose. It's something that happens to you, and you create from there. It's like when you're a person and you experience these losses, it's what gives us our richness. It's what gives us our wisdom. The interviewer interjects, but it's hard. And Kling responded, wisdom's not cheap, you know. We pay for it. Jesus is communicating to Peter that this is not going to be easy. For you or for me, you're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it. We're going to be wounded, and there's no other way around it. None of us entered this world without pain and suffering, without blood and tears. Jesus pivots away from this face-to-face moment with Peter and turns to the crowd and invites them all for this deeper teaching, this deeper level of consciousness. If anyone to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. Now, those are nice paradoxical statements. But pause for a moment and consider there are negative aspects to this. Is Jesus saying that we are to negate ourselves? If we look at Jesus' own development of the self over time, if we look at the Gospels in whole, we find that Jesus went off to pray by himself and meditate. He ate, he slept, he laughed, he cried, he hugged, he listened. He spent time with loved ones. He healed people, he cured people, he fed people, he loved people. Those are all aspects of a healthy self, a nurtured self, a whole self. This isn't somebody who dislikes people or who dislikes life. This is a whole self that Jesus invites Peter to experience and invites us as well. But what does this look like? You know, last week while I was riding my bike around, there's a BBC program simply called Sunday. And it's a religious program, kind of religious news. And it was there from this program that I heard first about Father Michael Judge. He's known as the 9/11 saint. Anybody ever heard of him? Yeah, a few of you. Yeah. He was a Franciscan priest and a New York Fire Department chaplain. When the first tower was struck, he headed down. He was met by Mayor Giuliani, asked to pray, and he prayed, and then he went into the command post, which was in the ground floor of the North Tower. When the South Tower collapsed because pieces of the building struck Father Michael, he was killed instantly. Before the North Tower fully collapsed, some first responders went and pulled his body out, 4 of them. If you Google it, you'll find the picture. Some have called it a modern-day Pieta, this classical scene where Mary weeps over the body of Jesus. These 4 people carrying the dead body of Father Michael Judge, weeping over him. Because he was the first victim identified, he was labeled victim 0001. It's fitting that many would see his body this way because one of the greatest stories that comes from his work as a priest was ministering to people with HIV/AIDS. When one man asked him, "Do you think God hates me?" Judge picked up the man, cradled him in his arms, and rocked him as he died. His friends said he took his struggles and sufferings and went into a deep place where he synthesized his experience to access deep wells of empathy and compassion for the downtrodden. He championed addicts. He was at work for peace and reconciliation in Northern Ireland. And he was always around those who were experiencing trauma. He tried single-handedly, just through force of personality, to change the Catholic Church's stance toward homosexuality. Not only by working for and with welcoming and affirming groups, but confessing to his gayest friends, "Yes, I'm gay as well." He matured for the community. He lived Jesus' words of a healthy view of self. "I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly." He loved life, he loved God, he loved others, and most importantly maybe, he loved himself. Our ancestor, Jesus of Nazareth, gifted us with this way of life as well. It's not a life absent tragedy, pain, or suffering. But it is a way that seeks to respond to pain, tragedy, and suffering with compassion, love, and grace. It was a way that Peter could not yet imagine when Jesus asked him, "Who do you say that I am?" But it is a way that we can find fulfilled in the lives of our ancestors. And it is a way that many of us are trying to live today. When we open ourselves to this way of Jesus, a deep self that is then in service to others, we can find this way of our ancestors in our lives today. We have examples and we have stories. May we do likewise. Amen. Jim and Karen are going to offer just a bit of music. And while they are, if you have not retrieved your communion pieces, I ask that you do that this time. So they are in the back of the tray. And you may see, if you haven't been here for a while, you may look around and see other people shaking the communion pieces. Well, that's just our way of preparing them for your taking of them. So you'll see people shake away, have at it, and you'll receive instructions from the Lord. So here's the piece. If you don't know about these, let me give you a little instruction. There are two layers to this. There's a first layer you open, a wafer, then you open the second one, and there'll be the juice. So we've been doing communion at home, so maybe you've experimented with the elements. I mean, it doesn't have to be juice and bread. It can be, all kind of things, depending on. You just take a little moment to make it holy, and then go from there. The one thing I have been surprised about, these little things are pretty destructible. I think they'll be around till about, probably another 500 years. Someone will find them, and they'll be able to take them. But one thing I've been waiting to see, and I'm a little apprehensive to mention this because somebody may take me up on it. I've been waiting for a TikTok video to emerge of somebody like juggling these, these things, or people throwing them over their shoulders before they take communion. But it hasn't happened yet. But I guarantee that it will happen sometime soon, but not this morning. So here these little things are. They're bizarre, they can be humorous, and they're depending on the plastic and the glue can be kind of cantankerous to use. But let's make this little thing holy, not because of what it is, because of what it symbolizes. And what it symbolizes is a meal where people gathered, broken people gathered, and said, let's share a meal together because in our brokenness, we can do together what we can't do as individuals. And one of those things is helping to love, forgive, and make this world a better place. So may this meal be that for us. On the night in which Jesus was betrayed, he took the bread and broke it. And I invite you to peel back the first layer, take the wafer and break it yourself. Jesus said, this is my body broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me, and may we do likewise. Now I invite you to peel back the second layer. Jesus said, this is my body poured out for you. Do this also in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do so until I return, and may we do likewise. We are a little bit sure of what the meal sounded like. Just if you can imagine ancient meals in a closed room with wood, with stone walls, there would have been lots of, noises and laughing, but it probably wasn't that, crinkle that we just heard. But things evolve and change. Here we are. Let's have a blessing on this time. Oh God, you've been present in singing. You've been present in just looking at each other. The joy in our eyes, the astonishment of change, the words of thankfulness. Thank you for that present time, and may we rejoice in this moment.